So I'm a bit late in getting to this, but I wanted to get to the Daily Beast's sad attempt at smearing Jill Stein. So by now, we all know that the Daily Beast is a pseudo-journalism outlet where their parent company is IAC. And on the board of IAC, Interactive Corp, sits Chelsea Clinton. So time and again throughout the course of this election, they've proven that they are willing to unfairly smear any and all of Hillary Clinton's opponents at the behest of their parent company. Now, they did this during the primary. They tried to smear Bernie Sanders, and all of their smear attempts were unfair. And now they're doing it again, this time to Jill Stein. So in a new smear piece, they're trying to frame Jill Stein as a hypocrite, saying that Jill Stein's ideology says one thing, but her investment portfolio says another. The holier-than-thou Green Party candidate rails against big carbon, big banks, big pharma, while she holds substantial investments in them. So their main argument is that she claims she's for the environment, but she's invested her own money in big carbon. She rails against Wall Street, but she has investments in the financial services industry. Also, she rails against war all the time, but she has money invested in defense contractors and drones. And that's not all. Jill Stein also has money invested in big tobacco and big pharma. Now, when I first heard about this article before reading it, I was honestly taken aback because I thought, wow, I mean, regardless if it comes from the Daily Beast or not, if there's evidence to back up their claims that Jill Stein is in fact this big of a hypocrite, then I can't defend her here. I have to be objective and actually criticize Jill Stein if it is the case that she's guilty of being a big hypocrite. But to no one's surprise, this is just the Daily Beast being the Daily Beast as usual. All that this is about is Jill Stein's investments in mutual funds. That's it. So as Jill Stein explains, like many Americans who hold retirement accounts, pension funds, or who invest in the American economy, my finances are largely held in index funds or mutual funds over which I have no control in management or decision making. Sadly, most of these broad investments are as compromised as the American economy, massively degraded as it is by the fossil fuel, defense, and finance industries. Over the years, I have taken steps to divest from the worst of these holdings, transferring my checking and savings accounts from Bank of America largely to a credit union, and divesting from GE, DuPont, and Merck stocks I had been given decades ago. Participating in the American economy by holding investments in mutual funds, retirement accounts, and index funds is a far cry from the Clintons' backroom fundraising and $250,000 speeches for the predatory banks, health insurance industry, and fossil fuel tycoons. It's also a world apart from the predatory economics, taxpayer bailouts, and tax dodging of Donald Trump. To the contrary, these investments are what tens of millions of working Americans must do to secure crucial resources for retirement. To suggest an equivalence betrays either mind-boggling cluelessness or, more likely, the attack dog mentality of the Clinton protection press hitting on true proponents of social change in order to defend the precarious empire of the political elite. The Daily Beast is suggesting that participating in the American economy is incompatible with working to change it. This is comparable to the position taken by anti-climate change press, like at Fox News, who say that riding in a car or an airplane means you cannot criticize fossil fuels. Unfortunately, to change public policy, one must participate in the economy enough to generate the resources to create change, ideally in a way that minimizes damage and maximizes change. We need real options for ethical investing, including investments in the cooperative economy. Retirement security should be a human right, guaranteed through expanded social security, not privatized through these types of investment accounts where financial management makes unsavory decisions for us. And above all, we must build political power that is independent of multinational corporations and the political elite that serve them. This is essential if we are to restore the elusive promise of American democracy and avert the imminent threats of climate catastrophe, end this war and nuclear confrontation, and build the just and sustainable future that is within our reach. Yeah. And I'll put her full response in the description box, but that's basically it. Now, she also casually destroyed him in her response as well. If Mr. Ali, who's the author, is truly interested in conflicts of interest of political candidates and their families, where is his disclosure of the conflict of interest posed by Chelsea Clinton's position as a director of the corporate owner of the Daily Beast, IAC? He has created an imagined conflict of interest, perhaps to distract from the very real harmful conflicts of interest in the Clintons' pay-to-play schemes, backroom fundraising, and $250,000 speeches for the predatory banks, health insurance industry, and fossil fuel tycoons, who have directly benefited from Hillary Clinton's policy record as Senator and Secretary of State, as well as from Bill Clinton's actions as president. So basically, you can already anticipate their hypocritical response. Well, Hillary Clinton, she can take money from, the fossil fuel industry and Wall Street, but she's not claiming that she's holier than thou. But since Jill Stein is claiming to be holier than thou, well, she's a hypocrite if she doesn't get rid of these mutual funds. This is an absolute joke. And I'll just say this. We're arguing for fundamental change at the institutional level, and by this standard that he's creating, I'm in support of paying workers slave wages because I have an Apple computer. And we all know that Apple treats their workers unfairly. I'm also a hypocrite, and apparently I'm not in favor of climate change legislation because I drive a car. I mean, this is an impossible standard that you're creating for Jill Stein that you're not applying to Hillary Clinton or yourself. It's just completely ridiculous. And to illustrate how ridiculous this smear attempt is on Jill Stein, you can look to people who don't typically support Jill Stein who have come to her defense. For example, David Pakman. David Pakman is one of my progressive colleagues, and he's not voting for Jill Stein. He doesn't support Jill Stein, but even he came to her defense here. Take a look.
If anything, Pat, and you know I'm not a fan of Jill Stein, this improves my opinion of her, that instead of falling prey to expensive money managers or hedge funds, she knows, or at least she's doing what indicates that she knows, that the most prudent way to invest is in these super low-cost, broad funds. She's not directly investing in or supporting Exxon any more than I am by holding this fund. I think this is a totally bogus critique of Jill Stein.
Right, and the truth is about 50 million Americans have investments in mutual funds and index funds.
Do they all love ExxonMobil?
Oh, no, of course not. You have no say in how the money's managed.
So look, in the end, this is the bottom line. You can say that people like Jill Stein or even myself are big hypocrites because we rail against slave wages, but then we support these companies by buying their products. I don't know what, went into this microphone. Who made this microphone? You can also say I'm a hypocrite because I'm posting my videos on YouTube, which is a platform owned by Google, who is censoring news about Hillary Clinton. So everyone is a hypocrite in some way, shape, or form, but I want the government to impose restrictions on companies so they can't do these types of things. That's why I'm speaking out. So, this attack is baseless, as any other attack has been thus far on Jill Stein, and it's just ridiculous. It shows that the Daily Beast is getting desperate in their attempt to smear Jill Stein, and this is a good sign. Why? Because it shows that the establishment sees Jill Stein as a threat, and if the Green Party is seen as a threat, then that means the Democratic Party has to react. They have to move back to the left. So this is a good sign. I don't see any harm in this. It just makes the Daily Beast look like shit and tells us that the Democratic establishment is afraid of the Green Party and Jill Stein.